Welcome to Nice and Blunt. It's time for another win-loss pick video. Today's division is the AFC North, one of the most competitive, entertaining divisions there is, that had two playoff teams, almost a third last year, and then the Browns. But we're going to begin with last year's division champs, the Baltimore Ravens, who I think have a shot to be in the Super Bowl this year. They are always really close. Lamar Jackson's an elite quarterback. Derrick Henry, I think, will continue his dominance, and their defense did get bolstered in the secondary, drafting Malachi Starks along with bringing in Jair Alexander. Going to be a tough team to beat. Let's take a look at their schedule. I think in week one, that rematch of the AFC divisional round, going to be a heated battle here. Sunday night at Buffalo. Can't wait to watch. I think the Ravens get some revenge. I am a little bit worried about James Cook not being 100% healthy after his holdout in week one. He might not even be on the field, but I think the revenge aspect of this, Mark Andrews is not going to be dropping touchdowns, and there won't be those costly fumbles in this one. So give me the Ravens. Weather, not a factor here. I think they take it in week one. Then I think they start off the season hot. They get week two Sunday morning versus Cleveland. That's an automatic win. I have no confidence in Joe Flacco beating his former team. Then week three Monday night versus Detroit. This was my pick last playoffs to be the Super Bowl game. It didn't happen. I think we missed out on an elite matchup. So we get it here in week three, an entertaining as fuck matchup. I am going with Lamar Jackson. I'm a little bit worried that with no Ben Johnson, the Lions kind of stumble a little bit in the early season. At home, especially against the NFC, Lamar Jackson is nearly undefeated. He has an elite record. I think it continues with another win. Then week four, Sunday at Kansas City. I think they continue their revenge tour, and the Ravens assert their dominance on the entire AFC. Let everyone know they're taking down the big dogs. They get another win Sunday at Kansas City. Isaiah Likely's toe does not go out of bounds in this one. So 4-0 to start the year, and I think week five Sunday morning versus Houston is their fifth straight win. They've beaten the Texans consistently, and I'm worried that those rookie receivers are going to have a hard time. They will get locked up by the elite secondary of the Ravens. So win it with defense, but the offense keeps rolling. 5-0 versus Houston. But in week six, I think this will be a nightmare matchup. I don't think they go six in a row. I think they're going to lose to the Rams. They had a very, very close one down to overtime last time they faced off against Stafford and McVay. I think this one goes to the Rams, an L in week six. But week seven is a bye, a chance to regroup, and I think they rattle off a bunch of other wins post-bye. This schedule is not that difficult moving forward. Sunday morning versus Chicago. I don't trust Caleb Williams quite yet. I'm taking the Ravens off a bye. That's another win. Then week nine, Thursday night at Miami. Tua might not even be healthy at this point, but even if he is, I do not trust Mike McDaniel and the Dolphins this season. Give me a win for Baltimore. That puts them at 7-1, and I think it goes up from here. Sunday morning at Minnesota. J.J. McCarthy not going to know what hit him. That's a win for Lamar Jackson. Week 11, Sunday at Cleveland. I see them sweeping the Browns. No chance. That's an L. And then week 12, Sunday morning versus the Jets. Even if they're a little improved with Justin Fields, I don't trust Aaron Glenn against John Harbaugh. Give me yet another dub for the Ravens. But week 13, Thanksgiving night versus the Bengals. It's prime time at home, and I think it's in the Ravens' favor. Another win. Usually they beat the Bengals when it's on their home field. But week 14, Sunday morning versus Pittsburgh, off a tough game. Usually Mike Tomlin has the kryptonite to beat Baltimore, and even though this one is at home, I'm giving it to Aaron Rodgers. I think they miss a beat off that Bengals game. They lose to the Steelers once again. So their second loss of the year off a 6-game win streak. They're in a bit of a funk moving forward. I think they lose the second matchup Sunday morning at Cincinnati. I don't think they sweep the Bengals. They will lose one of those games, and that's a 2-game losing streak. I think they bounce back after that with a Saturday morning game versus New England. I think they will beat Mike Vrabel and Drake May. And at this point, with 12 wins, I think all it takes is one more to lock up the 1 seed. I think they do beat Green Bay, even in the Packers Stadium at Lambeau. I'm giving it to Lamar Jackson again. Jair Alexander locks up his former team. So 13-3 entering week 18. I think that's going to be good enough to lock up the 1 seed, because Even if the Bills or Chiefs are right behind them, they have a win against both of them in my prediction. So that's the tiebreaker. If they're all tied at 13 wins, the Ravens will have the advantage. And that means they're just going to be resting their starters. They're going to take the early bye week and suffer another loss to the Steelers. This one's irrelevant. 13-4 is good enough for that 1 seed. I believe it's the Ravens' year. They're back in the playoffs with home field advantage, just like 2 years ago. This time, it's going to be different with Derrick Henry. So 13-4 for the Ravens. Love their team this year. I think they're going to be a nightmare to beat. Let's move on, though, to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Finished second in this division. 10-7 last year. A wild card loss once again. But this time, with Aaron Rodgers, maybe they can turn it around. They made some big changes. It's DK Metcalf, not George Pickens, at wide receiver. They also added Jonnu Smith. They also brought in Jalen Ramsey to replace Minkah Fitzpatrick. So their team is completely revamped. Are they any different, though? Let's find out. Week 1, Sunday morning at the Jets. Aaron Rodgers gets some revenge. He is bitter about the way it ended with New York, and I don't trust Justin Fields and a rookie head coach to beat Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin usually has his team locked up very, very sharp early in the season. That's a win for Pittsburgh on Sunday morning. Then week 2, Sunday morning versus Seattle. I do not trust Sam Darnold with his new team yet. Also a lot of moving pieces there. And DK Metcalf will have some revenge himself. So home opener for the Steelers. When they play Renegade in the fourth quarter, I think they're going to have a 2-touchdown lead. I think this is a blowout win over the Seahawks. Week 3, Sunday morning at New England. Mike Vrabel and Drake May are going to be a tough test. I think Vrabel will give them some problems here. Not going to be an easy one, but given the cohesion early on in the season, that's usually typical for Pittsburgh, I don't think the Patriots will have all of their ducks in a row for this matchup. So a 3-0 start for Pittsburgh is what I'm envisioning. I think they're going to start off red hot with another win. But week 4, Sunday in Dublin, they have to travel to Ireland. Historically, Mike Tomlin has a terrible record when the game is in unconventional situations, whether it's a Thursday night matchup, even Monday night or Saturday. If they have an odd amount of rest and they got to travel to Europe, I just don't think it's going to happen. I think the Young Bucks in Minnesota get the dub. I'm going to take Kevin O'Connell and J.J. McCarthy to pull an upset on Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers would have been better in Minnesota. Unfortunately, he's with the Steelers, and I think they lose to the Vikings. So their first L of the year, followed by a week 5 bye. Off of the travel, I think that's actually an ideal time to have the bye. But week 6, Sunday morning versus Cleveland, I don't think they're going to lose like they did in the snow to Jameis Winston last year. That's a win, in my view, for Pittsburgh. They're 4th of the season. And then the schedule gets pretty tough. I think it's going to be a very difficult stretch here these next 4 weeks. Thursday night, week 7 at Cincinnati, in my opinion, is an L. I don't think they're better than the Bengals, especially on offense. I worry about them a lot. So that's another L. They're 2nd of the year, 4-2, still not bad. But then week 8, Sunday night versus Green Bay, Rodgers has a shot at revenge. Can he beat his former team? I don't think so. If he does win, he'll complete the full slate of NFL wins. He'll have beaten all 32 teams. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think they lose for the 2nd week in a row. Give me Jordan Love beating the player he replaced. Then week 9, Sunday morning versus the Colts. If we look at the recent history between Shane Steichen and Mike Tomlin, the Colts have been beating the Steelers, and I think it happens again. I think Daniel Jones does find a way here. I think the Steelers are sleeping on this matchup a little bit, and they underestimate it. That's a loss, in my opinion. A bit of an upset. I think they're going to be looking ahead to week 10 at the Chargers on Sunday night. That's going to be a very good matchup, a really close one. Last year they did beat the Chargers, but Herbert got injured mid-game, did not finish it. I don't think it happens for the 2nd year in a row. I'm going to take Herbert and Harbaugh against Rodgers and Tomlin. So that is 4 straight L's, starting off 4-1. Now they're 4-5, and this is going to be a very contentious rest of season. They're in kind of desperation mode. The losing streak started early this year, so that's a rough spot to be in, but I think they bounce back against the Bengals. I do not think they get swept by Cincinnati, I think at home versus Joe Burrow, their defense steps up. Give me a win in week 11. They're fifth, back to 500. So 4-1, now 5-5 in week 12 Sunday morning at Chicago. I think Rodgers still owns the Chicago Bears. I think they win on the road. Rodgers knows how to beat him. Week 13, Sunday versus Buffalo, however, is a different story. A very difficult game against Josh Allen. I think that's an L once again. So yet another loss. Week 14, Sunday morning at Baltimore, though, we've seen Mike Tomlin have the Ravens number. I think it continues, and they find a way on defense. The turnovers are the difference makers. So an upset win, the Ravens take a loss, and the Steelers get back above 500 once more. But week 15, Monday night versus Miami, I'm actually going to call upset here. I'm going to take Tua and Mike McDaniel. I think Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith do not get the best of their former team. Minkah Fitzpatrick makes them regret the trade. An L in week 15, Mike Tomlin is not the same caliber coach in primetime on Monday. Week 16, Sunday at Detroit. I'm going to take the Lions. I think they're a better team overall, much better offense. And even with some new coordinators, I think at the end of the year, they will hit their stride. Give me an L for Pittsburgh in week 16. They're 8th of the year. They got to finish strong to have any shot at the playoffs. But week 17, Sunday at Cleveland, I think they get the win. I think they can sweep the Browns. And then week 18 versus Baltimore, I mentioned it with the Ravens predictions. I think they're the 1 seed. I think they rest their starters, and a difficult game becomes much more easy to get the win. So I'm giving it to Pittsburgh. I think they finish 9-8. That 4-game losing streak is brutal. And I think those L's against the Colts and Miami are the reason they missed the playoffs. I think in the AFC, 9 wins is just not enough to get it done. So another winning season for Mike Tomlin, but a disappointing finish and a rough end to the career for Rodgers. I believe it will be his last year. I don't think he's making a playoff appearance. But next up, let's talk about the Bengals, who just missed the playoffs last season. If it was not for the Broncos having the tiebreaker, then the Bengals could have made it, but it just didn't work out. They were not buttoned up early in the season, and in typical Bengals fashion, they're having a very distracting offseason. Both pass rushers, Trey Hendrickson and their first-round pick, are not at camp yet, and I think it's going to loom into late August. I do not think they're going to be in good shape entering September. So even though Joe Burrow might have a full offseason for the first time in forever, it feels like, I just don't trust him. I think they're actually going to lose week 1 Sunday morning at Cleveland. The Browns have Burrow's number. They've beaten him many times in the past, and I think they get back to a winning record here in week 1. I'm taking an L at Cleveland. I think Myles Garrett really blows up their offensive line. So that's a rough one. Tough way to start the year. Yet another loss, just like last year against the Patriots in week 1, a shocking L for the Bengals. But week 2, Sunday morning versus Jacksonville, not going to be easy. And I think Liam Cohen's going to have that team really sharp this season. I think Travis Hunter is a difference maker. Maybe he does lock up Jamar Chase. But give me the Jaguars in week 2. I think the Bengals defense still just does not have the answers. A bit of a shootout. I'm taking the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence finds a way. So 0-2 to start the season, and I think it gets worse Sunday morning at Minnesota in week 3. Very tough environment. I'm going to take the Brian Flores defense to give them a lot of problems. A lot of people don't trust J.J. McCarthy, but I trust Kevin O'Connell a lot more than Zach Taylor, and I just don't trust the Bengals defense at all. So yet another upset here. A third straight L to start the year. 0-3 is brutal, and if they don't figure things out quickly, they have no chance at the playoff picture. So week 4, Monday night at Denver, is a must-win scenario, and I think they finally get back on track, even though Sean Payton drafted a corner in the first round to try and stop T. Higgins this time. Don't think it'll work out. I don't know if Jahdae Barron is ready for this matchup. So the Bengals figure it out, a win in week 4, but then in week 5, a game against Detroit, that's not easy either. I think the Lions will be a little desperate for wins as well. A barn burner shootout goes in favor of Detroit. Their 4th L of the year. Bengals at 1-4. Pretty brutal to start the year. But week 6, I think they find their footing. I think they get back on track, and Sunday at Green Bay I think is a win, and I think it kicks off a winning streak. So a win against Jordan Love, and then week 7 Thursday night versus Pittsburgh in primetime. Give me a win against the Steelers. They're a little desperate here, and they don't fuck around. Give me a win against Aaron Rodgers. But week 8 Sunday morning versus the Jets, I'm not picking Justin Fields. I think they have what it takes to beat the Jets. The Jets usually suck. I envision a bad team in New York once again. So a win for Cincinnati in week 8. And then week 9 Sunday morning versus Chicago. I don't trust Caleb Williams quite enough here. I think at home, especially Joe Burrow takes care of business, handles this one easily. Give me another win. They're 4th in a row for Cincinnati. So an 0-3 start turns into a 5-4 record. Entering the bye, I think they're going to be a lot more confident, but perhaps take it easy too much on the break and maybe lose some momentum. I am worried about this second matchup here at Pittsburgh. Maybe they lose the first one, win the second one, but I don't think they're sweeping Aaron Rodgers this season. Give me an L in week 11, even off the bye. I think that's going to be rough. I believe Rodgers will have what it takes. So maybe there's an injury in the wide receiver core. Maybe the defense is also banged up. For whatever reason, I just don't trust Zach Taylor enough this season. I think it's going to be his final year in Cincinnati. So an L in week 11 kicks off another losing streak. I think they lose week 12 to the Patriots as well. Last year they lost to New England in week 1, and Gerard Mayo was the coach. I think Vrabel's going to have them extra confident, feeling really good, and whether it's a blunder on special teams or just too many penalties, I think they're going to be in rough shape here. I think the Patriots know they can beat them and have the confidence to do it. Give me yet another L for Cincinnati in week 12. I think they're also looking ahead to the Thanksgiving game against Baltimore on Thursday night. So they get caught sleeping, they lose to the Patriots, and then week 13, Burrow was already complaining about it, not excited about this Thursday night game at the Ravens. I think Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry run all over him. I don't think they can stop that duo in this one. So give me an L on the road. I think on Thanksgiving, it's going to be a hell of a game, maybe another overtime matchup, but I'm taking Lamar Jackson to be eating turkey legs on Thanksgiving. So that one's another L, another 3-game losing streak, their second of the year. And at this point, 5-7 is rough. They cannot afford to lose another game. I don't think you can enter the playoff picture in the AFC at only 9 wins. So they have to win out. I think that's what they're going to do. Sunday, week 14 at Buffalo. They usually beat Josh Allen. I think Burrow's going to have their number here. Give me a win week 14. And then in week 15, Sunday morning versus Baltimore, I don't see them getting swept. They get some revenge in desperation mode. Give me another win once more against the Ravens. But week 16, Sunday night at Miami, I do not trust Tua in this matchup. In primetime, I'm absolutely taking Joe Burrow in Florida. And then week 17 versus Arizona, I'm not going to trust Kyler Murray to win this one. Definitely give me the Bengals at home to get their 9th win of the season. But week 18, they get some revenge against Cleveland. Definitely a winnable game here to close it out. I think it happens, and they finish the year 10-7. Just like last season, that might be enough, but it also might just miss out on that playoff picture. So a rough stint to start the year, some distracting off-season headlines that just don't help them figure it out. They usually suck in the month of September. I don't think it's going to change this time around. So 10-7 for the Bengals. We'll find out when we finish up the AFC if that's enough to make the playoffs. It'll be on the bubble, that's for sure. Best case scenario, I think they're the 7 seed. But Browns are the last team in this division, and it's going to be a rough season. Their quarterback situation is disgusting. But in week 1, they have the veteran Joe Flacco, in my opinion, set to be the starter. And I think Myles Garrett is going to be really giving Joe Burrow some nightmares. I don't think the Bengals are going to be locked in enough to get the win. So an upset is what I predict. The Browns often beat Joe Burrow. They've given him a rough time. I think they win once more at home in week 1. But I really don't see many more wins here. They don't have a single primetime matchup, and the NFL knows this is not a team you want to be watching in general. So week 2, Sunday morning at Baltimore, that's an L. No chance at beating Lamar. Week 3, Sunday morning versus Green Bay. That's another L. I definitely trust Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love more than the Browns. Week 4, Sunday morning at Detroit. Absolutely give me the Lions. That's yet another L, their third in a row. And it only gets worse from here. On Sunday, week 5, they travel to London to face the Vikings. And the Vikings played in Dublin the week before. They're going to be a little extra rested with less travel. That's an advantage to Minnesota. But even if it was in Cleveland, I would still take J.J. McCarthy to get the dub. So 4 L's in a row. Week 6, Sunday morning at Pittsburgh. That makes it 5 L's in a row. And week 7, Sunday morning versus Miami, I think it's once again another L versus the Dolphins. At this point, they've probably run through both Flacco and Kenny Pickett. I think mid-game in week 8, when they're losing to the Patriots, they might put in Dylan Gabriel to give him a shot to get things in order during the bye week. So once more, a loss to the Patriots. Week 9 is the bye. And then Dylan Gabriel finally gets his first start Sunday morning at the Jets, though. It's not going to be enough. They lose to the Jets. Justin Fields is the better quarterback for sure. So once again, another L. Then second game against Baltimore. That's an L. Sunday, week 12 at Las Vegas. I'm definitely taking the Raiders and Brock Bowers to dominate them. Genty will run all over them. And then week 13, Sunday morning versus San Francisco. I think Dylan Gabriel loses once again. Maybe it's a little closer. The Niners lost a lot of pieces on defense, but still not going to bet on it. Once again, a loss for the Browns. But week 14, Sunday morning versus Tennessee. I could see them lose some patience with Gabriel, and there is some hype on this Shedeur Sanders versus Cam Ward matchup. I think we see Shedeur in a Browns uniform getting some reps. In this one, it's not going to be enough, though. They lose to the Titans in week 14. Then week 15, Shedeur absolutely is the starter, in my opinion. At Chicago, they lose to Caleb Williams. They're much worse than the Bears. And then week 16, once again, no chance against Buffalo. That's another L. Week 17, they get swept by the Steelers. An L again. And then week 18, they are not sweeping the Bengals. They lose their 16th game in a row. My final record prediction for Cleveland this year is 1-16. They are tanking for Arch Manning at 1-16. They have a shot at the number 1 overall pick. So this is my prediction for this division. I have the Ravens not only winning the division, but taking the number 1 seed in the AFC with a win against Buffalo and Kansas City. They have all the tiebreakers they need to rest their starters. In week 18, they do not need that 14th win to have home field advantage in the playoffs. So good for the Ravens. I think it's their year. And then the Bengals finish second in this division, but 10-7 with 2 3-game losing streaks. A brutal stretch there. I don't think it's going to be enough. I think they're going to miss out. I don't think they make that number 7 seed this season. But Steelers at 9-8 are definitely missing the playoffs. I don't think they're going to have what it takes to get back into the dance this season. Rough end to Rodgers' career. But then the Browns are in contention for the number 1 overall pick, 1-16, one of their worst seasons. They've gone 0-16 before, this time 1-16. So that's it for this video. If you enjoyed, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more content. Next division I'll be predicting is the AFC East. If you don't want to miss out, ring the notification bell for all of my new content. But that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed. My name's Adam Riancho, and thank you for watching Nice and Blunt.